What's up, guys? Brian Grant here of ContestChampion.com. Today I just want to break down the newest addition to the contest, Vulture. Vulture is a champion that is definitely unique, a little bit hard to understand, so I'm going to try to break him down as best I can here and let you guys know if I think he's a good champion or not. Starting with his base stats, his attack and health, they're about average for what you can expect. His crit rating is on the low side, it's very low side, only 8.4%, but his crit damage rating is actually through the roof at 270% or 1576 rating. Now, just to give an idea of like how strong that is, how much crit damage rating that actually is, keep that number in mind, 1576, and that's only a 3-star Vulture, by the way. I have the 4-star, but he's not fully ranked up yet. So we're going to take a look at 4-star Spidey here. And you guys know the Stark Enhanced Spidey hits very hard, right? His crit damage rating is only 1175. Now he crits much more frequently, so his damage output is still going to be, very strong, as you guys know. But his crit damage rating is significantly less. So do not underestimate how powerful of hits Vulture can actually get in when he does land those crits. And the reason why I think his stats are distributed like that, with that low crit rating, has to do with one of his passive abilities here. The biggest thing about Vulture that you notice is it has a lot to do with managing his Chitauri energy. And one of the ways to gain that Chitauri energy is the top line on the screen there. Each time Vulture lands a critical hit, his suit stores 5 Chitauri energy for later use. Now, there are other ways to get that energy, but, Kabam, I'm guessing, they still wanted his damage to be okay without allowing him to just completely max out on Chitauri energy at all times, just by landing critical hits. So that's why his crit rating is on the low side there. When it comes to his block proficiency, it's very strong, up there with the best champions that I've seen, pretty much, aside from like Captain America. But it's 62.2% as a 3-star, and I believe as a 4-star that most likely goes up to about 65% or so. So yeah, very strong there. The armor rating is 3.3%. And that is definitely on the low side, but he's actually very tanky. And this has to do with one of his other passive abilities here, again with Chitauri energy. On the top line there, Vulture has a permanent armor up buff, increasing his armor by 7.43 per point of Chitauri energy. So at 100, yeah, that's an extra 743 armor, and that's just as a 3-star. I don't know if that goes up as a 4-star, but man, even as a 3-star, you can tell this guy is just an absolute tank. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's a good champion. There are a lot of tanky champions that are not good, right? Think about like Hulkbuster, for example. But he definitely does have that tanky quality to him. So if he does have other abilities, then yeah, the tankiness is definitely a big plus. If the buff can actually be nullified, even though it's a permanent armor up, it can be nullified. But if it does get nullified or broken, then it will reapply itself after 10 seconds. Okay, so what about his other abilities? Well, his signature ability allows him to start out with full Chitauri energy, so 100 Chitauri energy. And additionally, while the opponent is incinerated, which he has 2 ways of incinerating the opponent, you gain power per second. And it's not the strongest power gain ever, but, it definitely adds up, allows you to use your specials a little bit more frequently than you otherwise would. So yeah, it's not the greatest thing, but, it definitely helps. I would say having this guy awakened is kind of a big deal, mostly just because of starting out the fight with that 100 Chitauri energy, more so than the power gain. So you might not need the highest signature ability level, but just having him awakened is pretty good. All right, so what about his other abilities? What do you do with his Chitauri energy other than just allowing you to gain some more armor? Well, he has something called a Raptor Strike, which he dumps 50 energy, and the way to activate it is just by dashing back and then dashing forward immediately after. And if the opponent blocks that Raptor Strike, the next attack they will do will miss. And that includes specials. In my testing, I found that even specials count as that next attack and can miss. So that could be pretty big deal right there. It's a little bit awkward to use, a little bit difficult to use. I'm not gonna lie about it and say it's the best ability ever. If the opponent does not block that Raptor Strike, it will drain 25% of their current power. And this sounds a bit better than it actually is. It's 25% of their current power, not their maximum power. So the power drain is not going to be anywhere near as good as some of the other champions out there that are mainly used as power draining champions or just have other power drain abilities. What I do think it's useful for, though, is preventing the opponent from getting to their SP3. It's not going to stop them from gaining that first bar of power with, trying to prevent limbo or something like that. But it can definitely prevent enemies from getting to their SP3s. And if you're trying to play aggressively, then that could definitely help you out. Or, if they have like an all or nothing node, I could see it maybe being a potential way, but it's also not that reliable. But yeah, it can definitely prevent them from getting their SP3. The other use of energy is whenever you dodge backwards, you actually apply an incinerate debuff on the opponent, and it doesn't deal a crazy amount of damage. It's decent. As a 3-star, it's about 300 damage over 5 seconds. As a 4-star, of course, I'm sure it goes up. The only bad part about this, the kind of disappointing thing about it, is that it has a maximum stack of 1. I really don't think it'd be that big of a deal if it just allowed to stack more. It does cost 10 energy every single time you do it, so it's not like you just have infinite amounts of energy or an infinite amount of damage if you keep reapplying this. You are going to lose your energy, but it's decent because it does that damage and allows you to gain power with your signature ability, so it's good. I like it. I just wish that it was not capped out at a 1 stack. A little bit disappointing there. Alright, on to his abilities though. So, the way to gain Chitauri energy, other than landing critical hits, if we look at his special attack 1, it puts a 15-second debuff on the enemy, and through that 15 seconds, any power that they gain, which, just comes from you hitting them, basically, or other ways too, but mostly from you hitting them if the fight is going well, at least, you're going to be gaining that Chitauri energy back, and this is actually huge. You can go from 0 to 100 Chitauri energy easily within that 15-second time. Even if you are dumping a little bit of it, applying those incinerates, or doing a little bit of raptor striking. So the energy gain there is actually really powerful. Special attack 2, you do not gain any of that Chitauri energy. Instead, what happens is you're also burning a bit of the power that the opponent gains, 25%, and you're dealing just direct damage with that. So it definitely helps out in the way of dealing damage. The SP2, it is going to allow you to do more damage than the SP1. I don't think it's as good as the SP1 in most situations, though, just because you do want to gain that Chitauri energy to allow you to do your Raptor Strikes, allow you to apply those Incinerates while dodging. So yeah, I really think the SP1 for the most part is the way to go. But if you're already capped out, if you already have 100 Chitauri energy, then the SP2 is going to deal more damage. It's not the best as far as controlling power. It's that same thing that I talked about, or similar with Raptor Strike. It works differently. You're limiting 25% of what they gain. So it's not going to prevent them from getting to their specials. So you're still going to get hit with Limbo. You're still going to get hit with their specials. You still have to dodge them and everything. It definitely does help, though. So, having that 25% slower power gain on the enemy while doing that extra damage, it's all right. Special attack 3. Special attack 3 I'm really not a fan of. It incinerates the enemy for 20 seconds. It also removes their perfect block chance and lowers their block proficiency. But lowering the block proficiency, I don't think that actually matters anymore. Now that you can't crit while the enemy is blocking, your damage output, it's not going to be that strong anyway. So that part I don't really care about. So let's just focus in on the actual incinerate over 20 seconds. It's a low amount of damage. Only 926 over 20 seconds. Let's see what that actually breaks down to per tick. And keep in mind that this is, I am talking about a 3-star champion here, so it is going to be strong as a 4-star. But it's not going to be that much stronger. 926 divided by 20 seconds, that's only 46.3 per second. That's really not much, and this can get increased by, attack multipliers, and he actually has a synergy with the new Spidey to increase it by 40%, but still, at the end of the day, it just doesn't feel that powerful, and if the enemy has willpower, then they're actually going to be healing up pretty much all the damage they were able to do with that, so it's really not a damaging tool. In my opinion, it's here for the power gain. You're applying a long-lasting incinerate on the enemy to allow you to gain that power. So over those 20 seconds, you're going to gain about 20% of your power. If the higher your signature ability is, of course. So 20% of your power is coming back, but I just don't feel like it's worth it. I don't feel like the SP3 is worth using. In my opinion, the best thing to do is just to kind of spam the SP1. And then if you are capped out on energy, maybe switch it up to an SP2 or an SP3. Maybe you can weave one in there every once in a while. But for the most part, I think the best thing to do is just to spam the SP1, keep your Chitauri energy as high as you possibly can that way, and allow you to do a lot of Raptor Strikes, allow you to apply those Incinerates on the enemy, And that's going to keep your power gain up anyway. Just by having more Shatari energy and evading naturally, you're gonna gain that power gain as it is. And you can stack the SP3's Incinerate and the passive Evade Incinerate, so you can have two stacks of it in that case, but you don't gain double the power. From what I've noticed, it's the exact same power gain. So yeah, I really feel like there's just a couple tweaks they could have done to make this champion a bit more interesting. If they allowed more than one stack on the Incinerate, that would have been cool. On the the evading Incinerate, or if it did double up the power gain with the SP3 and the evading Incinerate, that could have been pretty cool. As it is, the champion, he's kind of just average, I would say. I don't think he's that good of a champion. He's about average. I'm not going to be really using him anywhere in the game in terms of like Alliance Quest or Alliance War or even regular questing himself as a champion. But what I do think is really cool about him is that the 4-star version actually has pretty good synergies here, in my opinion. And actually, to show it all, I think I need to go to an actual quest. So I have Stark Enhanced Spidey loaded up there, and I think with the help of Vulture, I can actually form a pretty powerful team. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a Vulture in here. And keep in mind, I'm really only using Vulture for his synergy, so we're going to focus in on the Stark Enhanced Spidey here. He gains 15% ability accuracy with the help of Vulture here, so that's fantastic. I think that helps out with his evasion. It should also help out with the chance to apply shock on his SP2, so it's going to help out his damage a little bit there. Then if we go over to Vulture, I'm actually just going to drag in the rest of the champions here that are a part of his synergy team, and it should actually allow us to have a pretty strong team setup here. So with Vulture alone, I'm getting 10% perfect block, some extra attack, and some more crit rating. Getting even more crit rating here. More attack, and some more perfect block. So now we're up to 15% perfect block. And then finally some more attack and some more crit damage rating. So it's kind of a pretty balanced setup, in my opinion, between adding attack, allowing you to hit some breakpoints, allowing you, to gain that extra duration in Labyrinth of Legends on the Enrage timer. So you got that attack going, you have some extra crit, and you have some extra crit damage, while also having that perfect block that if you're not so good at intercepting, like, I'm not that great at it, that perfect block actually helps out a decent amount as I'm blocking to bait out heavy abilities and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're maybe not the best player and you can't just go in there with a purely offensive team, then a well-balanced synergy team like this, I think is actually pretty useful, and might be a little bit overlooked at times, just how good perfect block can actually be if you can find a way to sneak in a decent amount of it while still having offensive synergies. So the reason I went for Vulture was just because of how good I feel like this team is in support of the new Spidey. So Vulture himself, I don't think he's a good champion. I think he's a bit fun, a bit interesting. Maybe at some point we'll find a use for him, a way to utilize that Raptor Strike better than we currently do. But for the most part, I just consider him a pure synergy champion for one of the best champions in the game, which means we can't understate the fact that he's just a synergy champion. One of the best champions in the game here with Stark Enhanced Spidey. So yeah, if I decide to go for the 5-star, which I'm not sure yet of Stark Spidey, I want to be ready with the best synergy team setup, and I think this is it. So if I get him, if I go for him, if I get him, then I will be going through something like Labyrinth of Legends with a team that looks something like this. So do I think 4-star Vulture is worth going for? Yes, because he does still have a purpose in this game. But that purpose is going to depend on if you also have the new Stark Enhanced Spidey, and if you do enjoy having the well-rounded synergy team with all the perfect block included and everything. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of first look at the champion from my perspective. Let me know if you got the champion and your thoughts on him, and that's going to do it for this one, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.